Okay, good morning everyone, and thank you for attending our PointSense Plant product launch webinar. Today we're going to go through very similar to what we presented at SPAR this year. So if you didn't have a chance to attend our user meeting at SPAR, we're going to cover a lot of similar material, but also cover some new things that have been enhanced since that time. And we're also going to talk about some things that are coming down the line in the next couple of weeks as we cross the finish line here for the product launch. So if you notice in your GoToWebinar control panel, you should be able to also answer questions in the questions section, and we'll try to answer those throughout. If we don't get to them, we'll answer them at the end, and if we run out of time, we'll contact you directly for an answer. But let's go ahead and jump in here. This is Scott Diaz speaking. And many of you have probably heard my voice on some videos before if you visited our YouTube site or seen us present in person. I've been with Qubit for 4 years now, and also have speaking and helping us on the demo portion, John Bunn, and he's our top technical sales manager here, and he's got a number of years AutoCAD experience, not only as a user but as a programmer, and with a specialty in plant and piping design. So many of you know that Qubit is actually a German-based firm, and it was founded in '99, and we have a number of different partners throughout the world. We are the US-based partner, and we're in the Houston office here. And Qubit develops a number of different products based on the measurement sensor that is used. Today, of course, we're focused on laser scanning and working with point clouds. But if you're curious about the other solutions that we provide based on sensor, I would encourage you to go to our website, qubitusa.com. So let's talk about where we left off in 2011. We introduced PointSense Plant, and the main feature with PointSense Plant was what we called Walk the Run, and that was our semi-automated catalog-driven piping design feature. We wanted to give people the ability to refer back to an industry standard catalog as they pattern recognized elements out of the point cloud. And it was really a great first launch, and we'll talk about some of the success as well. We did promise to add additional PointSense modules, and of course we promised that we would make improvements to the current module being PointSense Plant, and that's what today's focused on, is what's new with Plant. But for those of you that are new, we will cover the main features and review with you PointSense Plant in general as well. During 2011, we did introduce product VirtuServe, and VirtuServe, if any of you have worked with a planar or bubble view before, it allows you to import full scanning projects into the VirtuServe image view, and from there it's very highly visual environment, very easy. If you can work off a photograph, then you're comfortable inside of VirtuServe. The full VirtuServe product will connect to any Windows-based programs such as AutoCAD, AutoCAD Lite, many IntelliCAD type products, database-driven products like Excel or SAP. So it is a very flexible and easy to use product, but we really want to focus on the impact that it has for PointSense Plant owners. And so if you are an owner of PointSense Plant, we give you the ability to connect to AutoCAD from VirtuServe, and we find that it is a major part of the workflow, and John's going to be using that in his presentations today. So if anybody has used the classic Qubit Planar View product as a current user, VirtuServe for AutoCAD replaces the planar view, and it's no additional charge. It will simplify the workflow even if you are a current planar view user, because you can import full projects, and it gives you a scan map. If you notice the lower left part of the screenshot there, you'll see a scan map, and John will go into more detail, and that way you can move from position to position more easily. With planar view, you did not have that ability. It also reduces wrong point selection. If you've not worked with a bubble view or planar view before, You know that when you're working with raw data, sometimes it's very easy to accidentally click the wrong point or click a point behind what you're trying to snap to, for example. So the bubble view and image view eliminates that problem. We're going to be boosting up the number of file formats that we support, and here you can see a list of some of the file formats that you can look forward to seeing inside of the next release of VirtuServe, which is due out in June. So it'll be VirtuServe 5 at that point. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to John because he is our main plant guy and he knows what's going on. Many of you have spoken to John already if you're a current user. And John, you want to take it over? I'm actually going to switch the screen over to you if you want, and then we'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so first we'd like to start off by saying thank you to everyone that's been involved with the product. In the first year of existence, PointSense Plant has been largely successful. And really it's all thanks to the original beta period and the feedback that we've continued to get from the customers. You know, we've had many conversations with current current customers and prospects, and we had a lot of good ideas, and we were able to relay that to the developers and get a product that we feel caters to the customer's needs. Currently it's being used in all types of projects from small, medium, or large scale. And being used in projects is a lot different than being used in testing. So again, we just want to say thank you, and we look forward to continuing this in the future. So what were some of the customer demands in 2011? And this is following the original release of PointSense Plant. By far and large, I think the largest request was steel fitting. This was something that we wanted to have in the original release. It's a lot of work to make sure that we do it right, but that was definitely the most popular request. People also wanted to have exports to their design packages like Plant 3D, AutoPlan, etc. We also had requests for more realistic fittings. Anyone that's used the original version probably is aware that flanges and valves were more representational versus how they would really look out in the real world. Also, HVAC inducting was a huge request. Certain things to make things easier, like scan map navigation or even site maps, and also larger catalogs, because the initial release had some very basic ASME, AWWA catalogs. None of it was spec-driven, and also there were a lot of fittings that were sort of missing out of the original catalogs. Besides that, we also wanted to improve on the ability to deal with international standards, which we've also addressed. The stronger clash detection is something that we're interested in, and the customers demanded as well. And then, last but not least, we had the request for bent piping and to be able to handle tubing, to accurately give you a center line of how the pipe slopes and bends. Now, out of these items, this is what we've currently been able to add to the product. You can see we've taken care of most of them. We'll be showing the steel fitting as we go on. The exports to, we actually have a direct export to Plant 3D. It's still in its beta stage, but we do have it available for customers to try out. We're still dealing with AutoPlan and other design packages. It's really just a matter of, us and them sharing APIs. So we're always open for that. In whatever design package our customer is using, we want to be able to seamlessly integrate to that product. With the realistic fittings, I'll show you as we do a demonstration. All the items actually look how they should in the real world. And you also have the added benefit of being able to create custom blocks and attach them to catalog objects. So in the case that maybe a valve manufacturer provides 3D models for you, you can actually take that 3D model and just say, okay, well, this is going to be my new 300-pound gate valve model, and that'll actually take the place of our existing version in the catalog. The HVAC inducting, we plan on having that probably in a sub-release this year. It might be in the next full release after this. It's probably going to be our main focus moving forward. We just did not have the time to add that to a point that we felt was satisfactory for a project release. And that may be a sub-release during the year, so that's kind of an added benefit for maintenance customers, that they'll get that a chance to test that out before everyone else. With the scan maps, this is something that we think was a huge benefit, because any time that our software was being used in large-scale projects, there was an issue as far as navigation. And sometimes, people would be working with 100 to 150 scans, and to be able to navigate through that, especially with the classic or traditional planar view, was very difficult. It was very time-consuming, and a lot of times it would just, be disorienting. We've taken care of that with the VirtuServe. It's a very nice feature, and we'll show that in the demonstration as well. With the catalogs, again, we'll show this, but basically the catalogs have been broken down into spec-driven options. You can also just use a generic version of the catalog, but the great thing about having it as spec delimited is that it removes a lot of the clutter when the user is trying to bring back and forth different catalogs or different items into the active set. And we'll show that, but by and large, the catalogs are more comprehensive and much more easier for the user to use. With the clash detection, we really haven't made many improvements to it, mainly because Navisworks is so widely used, and the clash detection in Navisworks is I think more than good enough for what people need it for. And we also have a way to directly import all of our results as far as solids and line work, even the point cloud itself, directly to Navisworks. So it's something that we may improve in the future, maybe adding tolerance options, but for right now we felt that the priority was lower than these other items. And for the bent pipe and the tubing, this is also in the beta stage. This is available to users to test out. But how it works is really just clicking points along a bent pipe. If the pipe is bent at a small amount, or within a certain tolerance, it'll automatically detect that and flush through with an accurate solid and an accurate center line that shows the bending and sloping. In the case that it's more like tubing, let's say you have a 180-degree turn on it or something like that, then you just need to click points along that turn, and then after the turn it'll actually flush it through and continue it as one single center line. So before we get into some of the direct piping improvements, let's go into just a couple of basic improvements that we've given to the entire Point Cloud family, including PointSense Plant. One of the biggest things, and something that we've been asking about the whole year, is improvements to the section manager. And before the section manager had all the tools with it, but I think the user interface lacked a few things. And one of the main things was that it did not have right-click options. You had all the buttons on the top, but a lot of times users are used to right-clicking just by being used to Windows and other programs. So we added right-click options to everything. We also added the ability to change the look of the bounding box as soon as you highlight a section. Anyone that's familiar with the classic product or last year's release, I'm sure you've seen the sort of translucent red box that sometimes could kind of hinder your view. We give you the option to change that to a wireframe or to turn it off altogether. We also added some small tools to each section. You have the ability to isolate a section, which will turn off all sections except for the one that you're isolating. We added the ability to invert a section. So if you've clipped out a piece of the ground, for example, you can do an invert section, and it will create a brand new section of everything except the ground. So it's a nice way to only have to clip out one area and to be able to click two sections, or create two sections. We also added height mapping as a color option to the section. Really, you just set 2 points as your bottom and top threshold, and it will gradiently define the heights between those 2 points. And as you can see here in the snapshot on the right, we have the ability now to create a legend that you can place in your drawing. if you'll notice, this is the snapshot of the section manager here. If you have the sections with different colors, then you just highlight the sections and click the legend button. It'll actually place this legend here in the drawing, complete with the name of the section, which in this case is delimited by its elevation, as well as the color code that matches that. So it's very nice if somebody wants to create a deviation analysis or, you know, a highest or lowest point kind of report. Same as with VirtuServe. We've added additional imports into the Point Cloud PointSense product, E57, ZFS, ZFProj, PTG, CLR, CL3. In 2013 version of AutoCAD, you have these formats as well. But with our product, if you have 2011 or 12, you can also bring these in. So we're just making sure that nobody has a disadvantage for not, you know, being on the brand new release of AutoCAD. We also added a few plane fit enhancements. We created an automatic line work tool where you click any three planes, like in the snapshot here, we have two adjacent planes and then a ground plane, and it'll create all the intersection lines automatically. So you'll have your intersection, your vertical intersections, and then where both of these faces meet the ground. So let's get into some of the piping stuff. For those of you that are familiar with it, we're going to do a brief review of each of the features and then talk about the improvements. For anyone that's new to the PointSense Plant product, we'll explain exactly how it works. So the first step really is walk the run. And what walk the run is, it's a semi-automatic way to detect all of the items along a pipe run. And what we mean by semi-automatic is, you know, we're not just clicking one button and then flushing the whole drawing with cylinders or something like that. We're actually asking the user to click 2 points along a pipe and then as the line bends or changes to click 2 more points. And it's sort of a way for the user to you know, walk through the pipe run with the assistance of our pattern recognition tools. But this kind of eliminates the need to do cleanup at the end, and it's also a way that we're not automatically creating errors. There are a few ways or a few tools that you're using during walk the run. You know, clicking 2 points on a piece of pipe, for example, you have manual insertion options. You have ways to move and extend certain items, but really it's a very simple process. And what I really enjoy about it, anything you do is actually referring back to the catalog. So if you click 2 points on a cylinder and we detect a certain diameter, you know, the real world diameter is not always going to match the exact catalog dimensions, and that could be for a number of reasons, whether it's the, you know, registration being slightly off, or, you know, just the error introduced by reflectivity of the surface, or, you know, whatever the case is. You know, at the end of the day, we're actually referring back to the catalog to give you that real piece. And as you'll see in the demonstration, you know, it's only 2 or 3 tools, but the way that it works together, it actually gives you a very flexible tool set, and it's really a way to tackle different scenarios that you'll encounter out in the field. You know, different fitting to fitting makeups, or, you know, different types of pipe runs and spec changes and things like that. Really, these 2 or 3 tools can be used in conjunction to tackle all the scenarios. So some of the improvements that we've made, we've improved the user interface drastically. One thing that I think helps quite a bit are the automatic previews. And what I mean by that is, as you go through the run, if you highlight any option in the dialog box, it'll actually give you the preview of how that item will look before you insert it in the cloud. Also, with any pattern that we recognize through the process, it'll give you that preview automatically. And it really just helps the user know what's going on. In the past, we had a preview button that I think was a bit cumbersome, or a bit, I guess, too many steps. Our detection is actually much faster, and it'll continue to be that way as we tighten down our algorithms. We've added other things that make it faster, such as the filtering options. And really what that does is, if you know, for example, that this part of the line only has pipes and elbows, then you can set a filter with a checkbox to say, okay, just look for elbows. So at this point, it's not going to be looking for T's or any kind of flanges or valves, and it just speeds up the process, makes it quicker for the user, and as soon as the line goes back to being more than just elbows, all you have to do is uncheck that checkbox. And as we talked about before, we do have a much more realistic appearance of the objects, and I think that's good because it allows the user to truly match up the 3D model with the solid, or I'm sorry, with the point cloud. And also we do, again, we have the custom block options, which you'll see a small preview of during the demonstration. Okay, so the second stage, or the second part of piping, is what's known as apply constraints, and really its job is to make all of the items match up. And the walk the run portion is meant to be fast, and it's meant to look kind of like that screenshot over on the left. You can see there's a lot of gaps, there's overlapping. The items don't look like they connect at their welds, things like that. But you know, that's something that we didn't want the user to be accountable for. We don't want the user to have to go from weld to weld and make sure that everything's 100% perfect on the angles, because you know, you're dealing with point cloud data that may not be complete, and you know, to be honest, it's very difficult to perfectly line these things up manually. It takes a long time. So we wanted walk the run to be fast, and then we wanted to have apply constraints, which takes all of this and fixes it with one mouse click. So its job really is to make sure that all your center lines are coaxial and to make sure that all of the items match at their correct connection points. As you can see from the left to the right, you've lost the gaps, you've lost the misaligning center lines, and everything just matches up flush. And it's based on a weighted system. Really, to explain it in a nutshell, the pipes define the correct axis, and the items sort of fit in after it. And certain items have a higher priority. So you know, your T's and your elbows, those center points are held at a high weight. Same thing with face of flange and center of valve and those kind of things. So we sort of fit in the most important pieces first and make sure that the second and third tier fittings fall into place after that. So the improvements to apply constraints, as far as the original apply constraints, which is now called apply constraints 1, we've optimized the algorithm. We've made it faster. We've made it able to detect more patterns. We've made it able to accommodate for certain fitting-to-fitting situations that weren't possible before. And this kind of goes back to customer testing and getting having the chance to use real project data on it. So again, we'd like to say thank you for that. Also, we've added what's known as apply constraints 2, and this actually is meant to make your point cloud match your design package. And what I mean by that is, a design package like Plant 3D, it's not going to, it's looking for a 90-degree elbow, for example. It's looking for 45 degrees. It's looking for everything to be absolutely perfect. And when you're dealing with as-built conditions, that's just not the case. It could be 0.2 degrees off or whatever if you really measure what that elbow is after temperature changes, after any kind of fluctuation from pressure, whatever the case is. We added this option so that you could actually take this work into your design packages and still provide you with a perfect center line and keeping these objects as close to the point cloud as possible. Now, as you get through longer pipe runs or more complex systems, then there will be points where the model actually strays slightly from the point cloud, especially when the pipes are fairly well bent or sloping. But if you try to bring in a curved center line into these design products, you'll see that it'll actually reject that if you're trying to use a routing line or to pipe on top of it. So this is the reason for apply constraints 2. We also have an export option, and in the past or in the first year's release, its job was to give you the intelligent 3D center line, to give you correct starting and end points for all of the items. It's all on its own layer, and it's also it's just a one-click option, and you actually clicked any pipe along the run, and it would flush this center line through it. What we've done to improve it, first is we gave the ability to export all pipe runs at the same time. It's kind of a small improvement, but actually in a more congested area, it It ensures that you don't forget or skip a line, and it also just makes it easier for the user. Sometimes it can be quite a hassle to select all those lines one by one. It's just a kind of a time saver. We added additional export options. One is to export to AutoCAD 3D solids, and you can actually separate that to its own layer if you want to. We did this in case anybody wants to do a simple clash detection, or maybe you want to bring a simple solid into Navisworks or another design product. You know, the AutoCAD 3D solid model is one of the most exportable formats out there, so it's a good option for the user, just in case they need to deliver something to a client that's using a different product, or they want to take those results somewhere else. We also added the ability to create intelligent database objects. This is an in-drawing database. It's got a basic structure that has, you know, all of the standard attributes for each of these items. The user does have the ability to change these and edit them as they see fit. If you want to add certain attributes to a certain class, you can do that as well. And also something we're pretty excited about, we've been working with Autodesk on creating direct Plant 3D objects. We're happy to say that this is available in the beta, you know, for all the customers out there that are currently testing it. And what it does is, instead of creating 3D solids, you know, generic solids, is creating Plant 3D objects. So at this point, all you have to do is create the objects with one button. You'll do your isometric or your orthographics, and then be good to go. It's just skipping a few steps to get the user from start to finish. Okay, so now I'd like to go over some of the improvements we have here. So this is a PCG file inside of AutoCAD 2013, and we'll actually kind of go through these fairly quickly on some of these, so I apologize if it looks a little bit rushed. But here's a section manager, and by default it kind of looks the same. I just want to show that you do have the right-click options here. Here's your insert legend, you know, all the standard things that you're used to seeing if you've used the product. And you'll also notice that as I highlighted this object, or I'm sorry, the section, you'll have the wireframe bounding box. And you can also turn that off with this button right here. Now, one of the really vast improvements to the whole workflow, in my opinion, is VirtuServe. And anyone who's used Planar View before, you know, I'm sure you're aware of the usefulness of the Planar View functionality. What this adds to it, one is the ability to have projects and to add as many scans as you want. The other thing, though, that I think is extremely important, if you'll notice as I zoom or pan, I have this green sort of viewpoint indicator down here in my scan spheres. It'll actually adjust as I move around, and it'll show where I'm currently looking. So in the case that I needed to switch over to another scan, I can actually just look over here and see that, okay, my viewpoint indicator is pointed this way. If I want to be on the other side of this object, I just click this, and I've now moved to that side. And you can see the viewpoint indicators line up, and I can see that at this point I'm looking at this other side of the object. And the other thing is, as you click points, they'll actually show up on both scans if you want them to. And it's just a nice way to be able to follow, you know, where you've been and kind of where you're going. So what I'll do for this, I'll actually split screen it. Normally you probably have 2 monitors or something set up like that, but for the purposes of the webinar, I'll just keep it like this. And just to do a very basic walkthrough, we'll start with walk the run, and we'll do find a new run. And all it really takes, you can choose these points out of the cloud if you'd like. What I do is I just go to VirtuServe. I like the you know, clicking on the flattened points. It ensures that I don't get a wrong click here, and just any 2 points on that pipe. And you'll see in this case it's telling me the measured outside diameter is 10.8 inches. We know that, you know, a 10-inch pipe is really, you know, 10 3/4. So what we want to do is just make the choice here. There's an option to kind of limit this to where it'll just automatically put in the 10-inch. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing here. So you'll see that those 2 points had found the pipe. And this is what I mean by the previews. This is just a manual insertion, so as I choose an option, it'll actually give me that preview, and I can just choose it that way. I also have the ability to do a pattern recognition, which we'll do in the very next step here. But I'll just put in a reducer, and then we have a flange right after it. So here's my 300-pound flange, and I can do select position by point, and it'll actually follow my mouse along the pipe run. And I also have the ability to toggle between start and end point. What I'll do is keep it at the end point, and normally what I do is just kind of zoom in, since we can get down to the laser point here, and just pick any point along the face. It's going to triangulate that with the current axis, and then place that in the drawing. And here I can put in a gasket. It's fitting to fitting, so I'll just keep going. And now we'll put in gate valve. So you'll see here, this is actually a custom block that we're using. I wanted to show off the realistic appearance of both the flange and the valve, but we also defined a rotation point, and this allows you to do things like, rotate and align bolt holes. In this case, I can actually change the handle rotation, and what I could also do in this case is just in planar view, pick any point on the stem here, and it'll actually put in that correct angle. Then if I want, I'll just put in the sort of paired flange. And now we have the T. So for the T, this is where we use the specify other pipe option. In my opinion, this is probably the most useful part of the walk the run product. What we do is just click 2 points on the branch, and at this point it's going to start doing pattern recognition. Now you can see it actually put in an elbow option, and here's my T option. I see the preview. I can verify that it's the right thing. I can double click it and it'll insert it. And I'll just put in the next flange and finish the run. So there's the first part there. And then if I want to, I can continue off of the T. It'll automatically know to go to the branch because that's the only thing that's available as far as open connection points. And now this is a good example of a good time to filter. The rest of this line is really just pipes and elbows. So I can go right here to the filter, change it to elbow, and then at this point, just pick 2 points after each elbow. Here's my 45. I'll go to the next one here. Another 45. And then I'll do 2 more just to finish this off. You can see with the filter, it just speeds things up, and it also, limits the options in case, the user gets kind of overloaded with the normal catalog. So there's that run, and anyone that's used walk the run in the past, you'll notice that the gaps and the overlapping has been largely taken away. But you still have certain things like this right here where the items don't quite match up, and again, it's supposed to be fast on walk the run. And then what we do is we go to Apply Constraints, choose any object along the run. You see the whole line kind of line up or light up green here. That means we see it as connected. We'll go forward, Apply Constraints, and now everything matches up. And that's really in a nutshell, that's the piping process. And I can continue these lines and go further, but hopefully you can see how the product works. One thing I'd also like to go into, we're pretty excited about this actually, is the steel fitting. And actually, let me go ahead and hop back over to the slides real quick. Also, we have some tagging. We're not going to show this too much, but I do want to go into it. Originally, we had just simple tagging, and you could actually change the database and make it how you saw fit. But even just as a default, we gave you certain position tags or elevation tags, things like that. So one of the cool things about this was the ability for the tag to reface your current view. So as you'd orbit or pan or whatever the case was, the text would actually reface you, just making it easier to read. But it also gave you the ability to kind of plot in multiple viewports without having to retag or redimension 3D items. So some of the improvements we've done to the tagging, we've added a 3D dimension routine, and really it's just clicking 2 3D points. It'll give you the distance, as you can see at the top there, and that actually also refaces you as you turn your view. And it's actually very useful because all you have to do if you wanted to is click 2 points out of the Virtue Serve, and you'd see everything very clearly in that picture view. Click 2 points and you get an accurate 3D dimension in your AutoCAD. We also added the plant object structure, which is part of the export options, which I'll show. And it's really just kind of an in-drawing database, as we kind of touched on earlier. So as far as the steel goes, we did a couple of things with this. We have a standard steel catalog with all of your major pieces, channels, angles, W shapes, S shapes, that kind of thing. And they're all, with their own sizes. We have a couple of different ways to insert it. We have a 2-point click method, which is an automatic pattern recognition of the object. This is probably the most standard option. Then we have a 5-point method, which really requires 3 points on one surface or one plane, and then 2 points on any adjacent plane. This is more of a fallback option, or kind of a last stand sort of scenario. I think it's very useful in the case that the pattern recognition is not able to pick it up as well as you'd like. Maybe the data is kind of far away from the scanner, or it's being obstructed by something. It's sort of a way for you to do a real quick plane recognition and then insert the actual pattern. We also have a way to force perfect vertical members, and we'll probably be adding the horizontal option as well. This is just for for users that want to create a perfect model based off of as-built conditions. And also we have a batch fitting mode, where you just click 2 points on multiple pieces of steel before you actually fit them, and then at the end you just hit OK, and it'll fit all of them at the same time. We added extend and swap options. The extend option lets the user sort of take the original piece that was pattern recognized in the point cloud and actually stretch it to its true extents. We'll show that in the demo, but it's a nice way to get the the right shape and size there. And we also have the ability to swap. And what that means is if you inserted a certain member and you see that that's not the right piece, you can actually swap it with any other piece in the catalog. And this is to ensure that the user doesn't necessarily have to know the exact size of the steel. You can always swap it later and change that piece out. Now, in addition to the steel, we also have a custom profile fit, and we'll show this as well. Really, it's a two-step process. You create any 2D profile, whether it's a rectangle, a circle, a polyline, whatever the case is, as you can see in this top kind of screenshot here. And then you click 2 points on the piece, in the cloud, and it'll create the extrusion version of that 2D profile. And just like with the steel, you have your stretch and swap options. It's just really a way for the user to be able to create a custom profile. So here, let me show that as well. And actually, right before we do that, I do want to show the export briefly here. So if we do the export, these are the options that we now have. And the polylines is going to give you the center line. You'll notice that we have the pipe runs only, or if you want to do just a single pipe run, or you can do all pipe runs at once. And then you'll also notice that we have the 3D solids and the plant 3D objects here as well. We'll actually be going through this stuff more later, not in this webinar so much. We actually would love for all of the beta testers that are using Plant 3D to use this option as much as possible. We want to make sure it's perfect for release. For the center line, though, I'll just hit OK here. And it'll actually do two things. It's going to label all the objects. And it's actually going to create a center line as well. It's fairly hard to see if you can see that green line behind there. But that gives you the start, center, and end points for all the key objects. And it is actually on its own layer, so you can choose whether to leave it on or turn it off. So for the steel fitting, what I'll need to do is just go into the catalog. And just to give you a real quick overview of the catalog, you can see everything now is spec driven. It's not required actually. We do have standard catalogs that aren't just specs, but we also have steel catalogs, and you still have the ability to create your own custom active sets. So what I'll do is keep the steel active set here, and then I'll do the fit beam option. And now you can actually see a preview of each of these items as well as how they're listed. So what I'll do is I'll go down here and choose a 6x15. You can see all my different options here. I'll actually leave it how it is. And my piece of steel, I believe, is right around here. And I'll actually go into VirtuServe. Now, if I can't see this piece, I can actually just switch over to this other view and move over this way. Now I'll be able to sort of zoom in on the steel. Actually, I went the wrong way. There we go. So very similar to the piping stuff, just 2 points. And it's going to fit that right there. And what I can actually do is go in and use the swap option. First, actually, I'll do the extend. So here I do an extend. I'll just go into VirtuServe, and really it just cares about the elevation or the height in this case. It's going to remain true to the original axis. So I'll click there on the bottom of the other beam. It's going to extend that up. And also I could take it the other way if I wanted to extend it down to the base plate. So I'll do that, and let's say I did the wrong size here. What I can do is choose the swap option. I get all of my other items here, and I can choose which one's right. We're actually going to have automatic previews as you highlight these in the future. This is still being improved on. And then just choose Insert, and you'll see that the beam actually changed its size. And if I want to, I can just continue forward just by clicking 2 pieces on the other piece, or I'm sorry, 2 points on the other piece. And it'll draw that in. If I want, I can just do an extend and push it forward. And this is the method I use. I do 2 points like this away from obstructions because I'm really just concerned with getting the right axis, simply because I know I can extend it later. So that's the steel fitting, and actually you'll notice the custom profile fitting is very similar. And for the example, I just went and used a little piece, 1 second, right here, because this is not in the catalog. So really what I did is I drew a polyline, and let me just turn off this cloud so I can see it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just load that in, and all I did was take a 2D polyline, trace it very poorly on the base of that object just to show kind of a custom object there. And I have a custom catalog here with beam and rect. I just named them very basic generic terms. So you bring it into the active set, and when you're done with that, you'll see that if you do the fit beam, it'll actually be available at the bottom here. And you can see it's a pretty poor representation, but it's a good way to show that anything can really be fit. So I'll choose that, and then in VirtuServe, just pick 2 points on that. A little difficult to see, sorry about that. So there's that piece, and then I'll want to extend it just to, let's say, the top here. And then all I'll do is click 2 points on the horizontal piece. And same thing, if I wanted to, I can extend it, but not bad for being able to just trace a real simple profile and then take that and find it in the point cloud as an extrusion. So actually with that, I'll pass it back over to Scott.
Okay, thanks, John. So you can see we've added a number of improvements. And for those of you that are very new to PointSense Plant, contact us if something is too fast or was too fast, or if you wanted to see more in depth or have more questions on how the actual process works. And of course, we can set you up with a trial. Just to give you all a bit of a timeline here, what we're doing as far as like I said earlier, getting to the finish line for this release. We're completing the Plant 3D export with Autodesk. John had shown where that's located in the export options, and we are working to perfect our interaction with that API. We're going to go ahead and enhance the Fit Steel user interface further and probably add more catalogs for standard steel profiles. Any final customer demands that we can fit into the product as far as from our beta period, those people that are testing now, thank you. We're going to try to fit what's possible into the product from your demands, and of course have some minor bug fixes as well, which is normal. In the foreseeable future, we would like to have HVAC support, so similar to Walk the Run, we'd like to do the same with ducting. We will release VirtuServe 5 very soon, which will have a number of new import options, which we spoke about earlier. And then we'd really like to add more post-editing tools for fitting, swapping fittings, and doing a variety of different post-processing after you complete your run or steel fitting type work, just to make it easier to patch up things at the end and not having to, let's say, delete certain areas and have to start over. So we will definitely be busy in the next couple of weeks. And let me just step forward here, John. This just gives you a quick overview. And this session is going to be recorded, so if you want to refer back to this, it's no problem. You could do that later. But you can see what we offer next to AutoCAD 2013. We continue to offer the Point Cloud Basic and Point Cloud Pro. We did add an additional PointSense module in PointSense Heritage, and our German team will most likely be hosting an event to show more in-depth coverage on Heritage, and then you can see what features are included with PointSense Plant. And that really brings us to the end of the session. We wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions, and I've been trying to answer a few within the session here, and I'm going to go back and kind of read some out loud. John, if you want to unmute your mic, we'll kind of go back and forth and name off some of these questions that have been asked so that you all are involved as well. It says, we had a question, will it be possible to change the order of the sections in the section manager list? That's currently not possible right now. We've just added some different options for right-clicking, renaming, inverting, but it's not a bad idea. That's something that that they should definitely write to us on the feedback page, because I believe the person who asked is a beta tester, so that'd be a great one to write to the development team. Will you be able to obtain actual pipeline length from the center line? Now, I answered this, John. Maybe you want to go into a little bit more depth on the answer.
Yeah, the actual, the center line itself is extracted from each component based on its, catalog information. But it also does take into account certain things, like mitered elbows, or the fact that a pipe actually goes inside of a slip-on flange, or socket weld items, that kind of thing. But all of the values you'll get as far as the pipeline length, or even individual lengths of certain components will match exactly how it should be in the catalog. So yeah, you can actually get all of that simply because we're using a catalog.
Okay, and it looks like he had a follow-up question to that as well. It says, are inline components also figured into gauging pipeline length?
Yes, and actually, that kind of just reiterates what I was saying. Certain items, they have their correct center lines, even though a certain valve would have a length of whatever for the solid. What's really important is the center line that is from connection point to connection point. So if the pipe actually goes inside of a socket or a bell or something like that, we're actually not including that, minus the socket depth as far as gauging the length of the line and each individual component.
Okay. Question here. When using insulation, is it possible to export the actual pipe and not just the insulation? And we didn't show you insulation in the walk the run tool, but it is there as an option. You can pipe with insulation or without. And when you do use insulation, you get to view the outer diameter and inner diameter of where the true pipe is. In the past, when you did a export to 3D solids, it would actually export just the outer diameter. But correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I believe we're correcting it to where, or adjusting the product to where you can export both the inner and outer diameters.
Yeah, right now you can toggle between the two and export either one. We're actually working on exporting the insulation and the pipe as two separate solids. So you'll have a cylindrical pipe with an insulation wrapping sort of solid around it.
Okay. The question, how are the photos taken? They're actually not exactly photographs. They are the view of the scan looking through basically the lens of the laser scanner from that scan position. So with each what you're seeing there's also points associated with everything that you're seeing, an XYZ coordinate associated with everything. And so those get generated automatically from the laser scanner, and based on the scanner used, kind of tells you which file format you need in order to import it to our VirtuServe product. So if you have a question on which file format you should use, just let us know which scanner you're using, we can tell you. We had a question here, is it possible to force the pipe to the X, Y, or YZ plane?
You can do that technically with manual insertions, because you can specify, let's say you pick one, or you find a pipe in the cloud, then you want to make sure that every other pipe is technically horizontally aligned to it. What you can do is when you come up to an elbow, you can specify its angle there. So you can tell it this is a 0 angle, keep it flat to the current plane. I'm not exactly sure as far as capturing as-built and everything, what that would be used for. If you're trying to extract maybe an orthographic off of it, then that'd be a different thing. But as far as keeping the piping constrained to a certain plane, it's possible, but it'll actually start to stray off of the data, and as you get further along the line, it may be more difficult to keep up.
A question from Jeff here, John. You see that one? Are you able to export or explode elbows now with the version that we have? We cannot explode the elbows and scale them up from meters to feet.
It's actually been quite a while since we haven't had the ability to do that. I would definitely make sure that you download the latest version. I think all of version 7, after I think maybe the second sub-release could do that. But if you want to scale them up also, you can set that up in the beginning to scale from meters to feet. You could actually change the point cloud itself and the catalog to match that. But if you want to just do a simple explode and scale, you can do it with the export option to do the 3D objects, or you can just explode the elbows manually and then just scale the objects up. First thing, I would verify that you have version 8. If you don't, then send me an email, Jeff, and I'll make sure you get the correct download link for it. But if you're having any problems outside of that, then we can take care of that soon.
Okay, now Paul's asking, when using steel fit, does the shape follow the cloud or place it plumb? Can it twist the steel if the existing cloud is twisted?
You have the option to force it vertical, and I think we're going to have the option to force it horizontal as well if you want to place it plumb. For the traditional automatic recognition, though, it follows the cloud. Now, we're not doing, bent steel or anything like that yet. It's something we've talked about because we have implemented bent piping as well, which I didn't get a chance to show in the demonstration. But if the steel is rotated a certain way and rolled a certain way, and its orientation is diagonal or something like that, we're going to draw it that way. We're going to detect it how it is in the cloud. As far as bent or disfigured pieces of steel, we're probably going to work on that in the future. We haven't made any concrete decisions on that quite yet.
Okay. Philip had a question. How important is it to have AutoCAD 2013? And really, Philip, what we recommend is, personally from John and myself, we like to see AutoCAD 2012 or 2013. Just because 2011 had some issues with the PCG engine where we had to create some workarounds in order to use the walk the run tools. It will work from 2010 through 2013. However, we recommend 2012 or 2013. Your major advantage with 2013 really is that Autodesk has enhanced the PCG engine as far as the quality and giving you more options to increase the number of points on screen that you see. So if you do have a nice machine, you can boost up the number of points that you're viewing, which is nice. But overall, if you're on a previous version, you should be fine as well. But Qubit is, with the plant product, supporting 10 through 13. Okay. I'm just going to sift through the questions here, make sure there's nothing additional. If you have questions, now would be the time to ask them. If not, please feel free to email us later, info@qubitusa.com. If you're interested in starting a trial and you want to start testing version 8, please go to our website, fill out the form for a trial, and that will come to us directly, and we can help get you started in that direction. If anyone's interested in having a private web demonstration to have more in-depth questions answered, we can do that as well. But it looks like we've come to the end of our questions, and we're right at our time limit here, so good timing. A lot more to come from PointSense Plant, especially in the next couple of weeks, and you should look for us on our YouTube site as we launch more videos and launch more features that enhance this product. But overall, I just want to say thanks on behalf of John and myself for attending, and we appreciate your dedication to the product, those of you that are current users, and for those of you interested, please give us a call, and we'll talk to you soon.